Hey, I'm a little bit hesitant to give this review as this is one of the big ones. Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance is one of those big, once-in-a-generation books on philosophy. And it's complex, it's inspired many people, it hits on many themes, and thus I feel very underprepared to address it. But I will, because I feel unprepared to address a lot, but I think not many people would be really qualified to address a book like this. That's definitely enough preamble. Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance is fundamentally a relationship book between father and son. It's difficult if you should classify it as that or if you should classify it as philosophy. Most people classify it purely in the philosophy section. If you go to philosophy in a bookstore, I would be very weirded out if there was not a copy of this book. This book is groundbreaking in many ways, the way it describes people and relationships, but most of all I think its piece of philosophy is most notable. Thematically or narratively, if that is a word, probably isn't. In this way, the book is about a father and a son journeying across America on motorcycles, or a motorcycle with some friends on an accompanying motorcycle. The point, I guess, of this story is to explain interpersonal relationships, both with the father, the son, the father and his friends and their family, and most notably his current self with his past self. There was an incident, though I am not going to reveal much more information, that caused a separation between his current and past self, and thus the vast majority of the book is identifying and learning about this difference via a personal philosophical dialogue in the main character or the author's head as he rides. As he journeys to his destination, he's also journeying classically in his mind, as many stories do on a journey of self-discovery, though his self-discovery is much more literal than in other metaphorical senses. To describe the philosophy present in this book would be quite difficult, as the areas of philosophy that this book addresses are really quite niche. It covers perception, philosophy of perception in many different ways, kind of like aesthetic philosophy, if you know what that is. It's the philosophy of how we view things and how we view beauty and utility in items. There's also a field of psychology to do with it, but this is mainly the philosophical view. his main work is to do with the idea of what value or what quality means, philosophically speaking, outside of the self, outside of understanding, or outside of current understanding. What is the idea of something having a quality of it being better than something else? Kind of like in Plato's world of forms, where there is a true representation of each thing, which we see its qualities reflected in the real world. The author tries to go about addressing what quality is. In the narrative of the story, the author starts at the very start of the book by almost completely deconstructing reality, and then spends the rest of the book trying to put it back together, using philosophy. Also, if you are interested in motorcycles, this does have a lot of details about motorcycle maintenance. It's not a textbook, but it does use the motorcycle and its maintenance as a main metaphor for explaining the difference in people's ability or willingness to learn, to view, to observe beauty and utility. So, if you like motorcycles and you like philosophy, I guess this would be a perfect book for you. I think in many ways this book is very comparable to the Meditations of Marcus Aurelius, as they are both long-form personal philosophical dialogues. Of course, Marcus Aurelius's book is more focused with ethics-based philosophy, but they do represent each other in both that they both have a main individual with a constant intellectual battle in his mind based in philosophy and philosophical thinking. The personal philosophical monologue, the author and character, I believe, call it a chautauquois or something like that, and his purpose of going on the journey not only is to bond with his son, but it's also to allow him the breathing room, the space to try to understand his past self and think using this opportunity. Usually with a book review I will go into more detail, but given the complexity of this book, I shall merely say, if you are intrigued about reality and want to read a true classic of contemporary philosophy, I would highly recommend Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. I have some quotes, though almost every line in the book is quotable to some degree. I've selected two and almost random out of my bank of quotes. The truth knocks on the door, and you say, "Go away, I'm looking for the truth," and so it goes away. Puzzling, and as an example of the far-reaching philosophy and commentary in the book, here is a quote concerning differences between religions and philosophies. The doctrinal differences between Hinduism and Buddhism and Taoism are not anywhere near as important as the doctrinal doctrinal differences between Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. Holy wars are not fought over them, as verbalized statements about reality are not seen to be reality itself. The author does tend to go into what the fundamental nature of reality or perception is quite a lot in this book, and it can be quite trippy. So, keep that in mind. And thank you for joining me for another episode. I hope you got to have a rest and a pause and a reprieve. And